From AIT Studios in Abuja, Nigeria, this is the O&M Sunday Show with Obiora Ilo and Mamode Akuga.
Hello, it's another Sunday afternoon, and of course it's time again for the O&M Sunday Show. Quite a lot is happening in Nigeria, a lot of good things, a few bad things, but we're all getting up and getting ready for that all-important elections that have been scheduled for later in the month of March and the beginning of April. My name is Mamode Akuga, and as usual, my tag team partner is right here in the studios.
I am Obiora Ilo. A beautiful Sunday, and it's even more exciting knowing that you are seated out there and waiting to be part of the O&M Sunday Show. A lot has been happening, like Mahmoud said. Of course, the president was in Lagos over the weekend, meeting with a lot of stakeholders, commissioning projects. But what was very remarkable was that the Yoruba leaders are asking the president to sign an agreement.
Yes, and I was just looking at some of the, in fact, it's the lead in some of the papers we have this morning. If you look at that, you will see there, right there, this is the Sunday Punch. Yoruba Oba's leaders give Jonathan conditions. And some of those conditions which they're saying is that they want the president to sign an undertaking, and that will give, some of their sons very important key federal appointments, and several other demands that they are making. And some people will say, well, it's politics and it's legal. You could ask, you could make demands for what you want for your people and use that to trade in your votes. I mean, that's
my only worry is in Nigeria, it will soon go viral. Every tribe, every subgroup, every state will start asking the president to sign an agreement. I don't know how many he will sign before the elections.
Well, the signing of agreement part of it is what I really don't know if it's proper. But I mean, as a people, if somebody comes seeking your vote, there's nothing wrong with you having requests to say, look, we will give you our votes, but we want this road. We want the bridge across this community. Previously, I mean, right now you can't get to the community except through Kenu. We want a bridge. If you do that for us, we'll give you our vote. There's nothing wrong with that. That's politics. But the signing of agreement part of it is what I may not necessarily
It's a little worrisome.
That's what's worrisome, yes.
Well, the exciting and very, how do I say it, encouraging thing that happened during that visit was the president commissioning some power projects. And,
yes.
And the power minister is telling us that pipelines will be monitored electronically, and that 220 megawatts was going to be added to the national
monitoring
grid.
Pipes electronically, very good, very nice. But again, there are some people that may not necessarily be happy with that development. You know that there are some ex-militants who were empowered, so to speak, with huge billion naira contracts to monitor those pipelines. Whether they were doing a good job of it is another matter. But if we're going to do that electronically, it will save Nigeria huge sums of money. Money currently going to some of the militants. And I think that that's itself is good.
You know, Mamode, another story that took much of the headlines in the passing week was the health of the presidential candidate of the APC,
yes,
who is visiting London.
Yes.
And we had the papers awash with meetings that he held, and APC media people kept saying, oh, the man is hale and hearty. Could he be in a hospital and then be meeting with the likes of Tony Blair?
Yeah, I think the man is saying that himself, because if you look at, this is the front page of This Day for this morning, you have it there, Buhari, I am not in any London hospital. So the man is busy having meetings and trying to convince everybody.
But he also took some time to visit a hospital, to visit a hospital in London, but insists that I am hale and hearty.
Yeah, but
and I'm sure it was in a reaction to what people like Ayo Fayoshe.
Yes.
You know, we talked about Ayo Fayoshe and the tradition of Africans of not talking about death and all that. But
yes.
he's not even apologizing.
But
he said he's been vindicated, actually.
Yes. And Buhari has also sent a message to Fayoshe because in front of the Tribune, it's one of the sub-headlines. It says Buhari, he's sending a message to Fayoshe through President Jonathan.
Oh, he did?
Yes, and he's saying, he's telling Jonathan to please tell Fayoshe to stop wishing him dead. But there's also another report which says that Ayo Fayoshe is trailing Buhari in London. And that's
just making sure that he's not, is it that he comes home alive or he doesn't come home alive? I don't know. Well, more cheering news coming from our forces on a hot chase with Boko Haram. We hear that a lot of them drowned while trying to escape.
Yes, you know, the army went into Baga to try to retake Baga. They've successfully done that. After, of course, they took control of the town, a lot of Boko Haram fighters fled. But, you know, I think they had cordoned off the proper areas where they could easily have escape from. So they had no choice than to go into the Lake Chad River, and a lot of them drowned in the process. And Lukolade is telling us that, you know, so many of them drowned as they, tried to escape. And that is good news for Nigeria. It's good news that we've seen a stepping up of, the fight against Boko Haram in the last 1-2 weeks, and successes have been recorded. And in spite of that, we are hearing, from the papers, even yesterday, the president saying that, the real fight will be taken to Boko Haram in March.
Well, that shows that we may have a promising, very peaceful elections.
And it's even saying that we may have Shekau in custody before the elections. And
that'd be great.
That's really nice.
And then he'll get my vote, I must tell you.
And probably the vote of a lot of other Nigerians.
If that happens.
Yes.
But before we'll wrap it up with what the papers are saying this afternoon, I warned Jonathan about Obasanjo.
Yes.
He insists Jega should go, and that's the ever powerful E.K. Clark.
Well, some people will also say controversial.
Yes.
Controversial E.K. Clark. But, let's not be very fast. We just do this very quickly also. From the Sunday Sun is another headline: no election until Jega quits. This is from Ezife, who's a former governor in Nigeria, saying to everybody, no election until Jega quits. Ezife. And so, anyway. A lot of people unhappy with Jega. I think the truth has come out. Jega came saying, look, it's all because of security reasons. But a lot of the truth has come out now, and everybody can see that INEC was really not ready. Jega was in the National Assembly last week, and he was telling the honorable members that over 1 million PVCs have not yet been printed, have not yet been done. Over 1 million. So the truth is coming out that, INEC was indeed not really ready.
Anyway, our promise is that we'll be following up on it. If it's possible, we'll be getting Ezife sometime this week to tell us why he thinks Jega should go. If it's also possible, we're already in negotiation with the most powerful E.K. Clark to be on this program, to also explain to us why some of them are insisting that Jega will go. But today in Abuja, all the Catholic bishops have assembled. They have a plenary, and it's the first of its kind this year.
2015.
And then they are focusing on security and non-violence
elections.
Non-violent elections.
Yes.
And that's what we are discussing today. And we already have some of our guests in the studio.
Yes.
We have Samson Itodo. Samson Itodo is already seated in the studio. We are still expecting Reverend Father Nwosu.
Chris Anyanwu.
Sorry, Chris Anyanwu,
yeah, Reverend Father
who
Chris
is actually will be representing the Catholic bishops on our program this afternoon.
But we also have with us in the studios here an honorable member of the House of Representatives. Is Honorable Uzoma Nkem Abonta, is from Abia State, representing one of the communities there in the House of Representatives.
One of the constituencies.
One of the constituencies there in the House of
Well,
Representatives.
it's good that the honorable member is here, because a lot of us have not been seeing a lot of honorable members these days. They've been politicking.
Well, they're busy trying to get back in, to the House of Reps or the Senate. Some of them even governors, but they've been busy politicking.
Okay, on the sofa, we have Nollywood actor, one of the pioneers, is Leo Nwordi. He will be joining us in a moment. You know, I didn't tell you that.
And a broadcaster as well?
He's also a broadcaster, but I didn't tell you that Leo has become also an evangelist, a pastor.
A lot of them in Nollywood are catching the bug of, being born again, as it were. And that's good. Yeah,
so we'll take a break. When we return, we'll start with our guest already seated in the studio to talk about security and non-violent elections.
Don't go away.
Well, if you're just joining us, this is your O&M Sunday Show, and today we are looking at security and non-violent elections, and this actually came up seriously today as the Catholic bishops are meeting in Abuja.
They're going to be deliberating on it in the next couple of days. Yeah, between today and Wednesday, as a matter of fact. They have the closing mass on Wednesday. That will be at about 5 p.m. That is where a communique on the issue will be released to the Nigerian people.
So we're also hoping that some of the representatives may join us on Tuesday night. Of course, we are still expecting Reverend Father
Chris
Anyanwu, yes, who was supposed to be here. We still hope he will be here soon. It's also important to know that Mr. President joined them in the service this morning, yes, at the Pro Cathedral here in Abuja. But joining us in the studio, we have first Samson Itodo. Samson is sometimes I don't know what I would say. He's like a youth activist, but he heads a group of youths that are trying to change things in Nigeria. Samson, please join us. And also joining us is
Honorable Uzoma Nkem, who is a member of Nigeria's House of Representatives. Safe distance. Honorable.
You're welcome.
Welcome. Yes.
Well, Samson, you've been all over. You've been all over the world. I don't know what you've been doing. But I know also that while you were there, you were monitoring developments in Nigeria. And one of the big, I don't want to say the biggest, one of the big challenges of this season is pockets of violence that we are seeing in a couple of places. And you can't talk about them without talking about the Rivers State violence, or Krika to be precise, where some parties were attacked while they were having their... But it's important, it's instructive that the bishops, the Catholic bishops, is actually making it a theme of their meeting. How would you see these pockets of violence, and how do you think it will affect the elections if not checked?
Well, thank you very much, and it's great to be on this very fantastic show. I think I did catch it up online when I was away for a while. That's a very, very interesting question. Interesting because all through history, all through our elections, even before we returned to democracy in 1999, all our elections on an incremental basis have been characterized with electoral violence. In some cases, pre, during, and even post-election.
Yeah.
If you look at the 2011 elections, you had post-election violence. There was even pre-election violence in some states like Niger, Akwa Ibom State, and even Bauchi State before and after the election. It just goes to speak. The fact that the Catholic bishops are meeting just simply shows that everyone is actually concerned. Concerned because of the rhetoric that has gained currency in our polity, which is the fact that because of the zero-sum game, political game that we play, the winner-takes-all game that we play, politics is now a do-or-die affair. So people are willing to lay down their lives. To a large extent, we have lost our sense of humanity on the altar of politics, just because we just want to get power. And that accounts for the state that we actually see across the country. The other issue, if you look at 2011, the post-election violence, the federal government set up an investigative committee led by Sheikh Lemu. And Sheikh Lemu, in their report, did say that over 1,000 persons lost their lives and properties worth over 40 billion naira were actually destroyed. In fact, NEMA came up with a report to say about 55,000 people died, 55,000 people were actually displaced. Human Rights Watch also corroborated the report of Sheikh Lemu Committee. There were two striking things from that report. First is the fact that on an incremental basis, we have observed incremental inflammatory statements or even hate speech that encourages people, that incites people to harvest violence as a means of either seeking social justice or as a means of winning elections. The second interesting thing is the fact that nobody who was involved in either post or pre or even electoral violence or even involved in electoral offenses were prosecuted. And so the lack of accountability. Now, it's a trend that has dovetailed into the impunity that we see across the country. And that's why you ask yourself, what is really happening? You have the Electoral Act and the Constitution condemning all sorts of violence, particularly if you look at Section 95, subsection 2 of the Electoral Act, that prohibits our religious institutions and our police station and even public offices from using their platforms for either propagation of political objectives or to even use that to even incite the people. But what you have seen is that our altars, whether Christian or Muslim, have been used for political campaigns. They've been used to incite people against each other and to propagate hate, yes, which is totally against the provisions of our law. Yes. And you ask yourself, even with this knowledge, why is this thing really happening?
And why are people not being prosecuted?
And why are people not being prosecuted?
We will come back. He said a few things that we have to take him up on later, but let's move over to Honorable. This violence, whether pre, during, or post, I mean, the people who are directly responsible for it are the politicians themselves. Because if you don't have these politicians, you won't have people asking other people to engage in violence. There are a lot of people caught in the crossfire. For instance, your Krika episode now, policeman, Mr. Okoli, was caught in the crossfire. It's just a policeman doing his job. He's dead as we speak, caught in the crossfire. So what level of desperation actually, pushes politicians to go and seek violence as a way of ensuring victory?
Thank you very much. I also want to thank you for bringing me to this program. First of all, I want to agree with my co-guest here, with all he said. You see, for some time now, the culture has been winner take it all. Therefore, politicians now go extra mile to try to gain electoral victory.
And take it all.
And take it all, which is very, very, very wrong. Secondly, our enforcement, the way we enforce rules is almost zero or not even there at all. You see, most of these violence that go on now has been outlawed. It's not sanctioned by law. But like he said, no single person was tried or ever brought to book for electoral violences. Reports came out. In fact, we also know those who perpetrated the violence and nothing happens to them. So it's a kind of era of impunity. And my take on that would be that it's high time the agencies did their job. Police should begin to prosecute. For example, even when people go to tribunal, they establish electoral fraud, and there's no prosecution thereafter. They merely either cancel election or declare somebody winner, but the fact somebody that led to that
who perpetrated the fraud
will go scot-free. And the thing is that he will also do it again. If, for example, by the time we get that report, look at names mentioned, those indicted, some of them will have been in jail now, and they won't have the audacity or the boldness to come back again to do what they are doing. I also want to say that not just that the politicians are also very willing or go the extra mile, the supporters of politicians at times trying to justify their loyalty. Go the extra mile. Why is it that the politicians are not involved, but they are followers? I've never seen in electoral violence where a politician is killed or whatever, but most of their followers are the ones who are involved when the actors must have been far, far, far away. So I think that is something that we must check properly.
Why is proving loyalty so important?
Because in politics they say loyalty is 100%, 99 is not accepted. That 1% could lead to something else. So followers go extra mile to show that they're 100% loyal. They want to lay down their life, which is stupidity, because they want to make their principal believe that they are working for you so hard. Is it so hard to cause violence, to take somebody's life and to lose their own life in the process? I think that something ought to be done. I think law enforcement agents must see to that. And electoral offenses should be stiffer.
Okay, Honorable, it's easy for all of us to blame the executive because it's the executive actually that's in charge of the law enforcement agents and all that. But you are in the National Assembly. And after the mayhem of 2011, did the National Assembly in any way move the discussion forward by compelling those whose duties it is to ensure that there are no violence? Is there any way the National Assembly tried to also put in a leg in it and ensure that the law takes its course?
To the best of my knowledge, I would not think that the National Assembly kept quiet about that. Neither did they move forward to see that. But I'll tell you one thing. One, a commission was set up that came out with a report. What happened to that report? Policemen lost their lives. Coppers lost their lives. Civilians lost their lives. Must it be National Assembly that must question? And you see, National Assembly is also built along party lines. And party people were involved in this, politicians were involved. By the time you begin to, most of it happened at Bauchi and all whatnot. You see, I also think, though not holding brief National Assembly, but I thought they're also trying to avoid, as if they're trying to use National Assembly to chase a particular party or politicians, knowing what happened immediately after 2011.
So in other words, they shied away from pushing it or insisting.
From their responsibility.
Insisting implementation of the report.
Let me take you further. On several other issues, National had insisted that certain things be done. They weren't done. But police who lost lives ought to say we are going to live up to our duties. Let me also return the question to you. Did police do anything and National Assembly or President should stop them?
No, you have to answer that. We are the ones asking the question.
But police didn't do anything and National Assembly stopped them.
Anyway.
So must National Assembly wake police up to their duties?
Okay,
Well, we may do that.
Samson, you know, in your answer to our question, you did like give us a history of some of these things, committees being set up and all that. What would you say is the reason or responsible for this lethargy? For instance, Honorable said policemen lost their lives, so one would have thought that the policemen should champion.
They're still losing their
I
lives.
mean, they're still losing. I mean, there are casualties when these things happen. Why would you think that those in charge are not doing their job?
Well, before I answer that, I think the National Assembly did make an attempt. Part of it is in the Constitution review process with respect to setting up an electoral offences commission. I know for sure, following the process, the House did pass an amendment for an establishment of an electoral offences commission. But when it came to the conference committee with the House and the Senate, that was dropped, and the Federal High Court was granted some sort of exclusive jurisdiction to try those matters. So they did make an attempt. Where I think this assembly didn't take this into serious contemplation was in the amendment of the Electoral Act. And when the House, yes, it was the House that was conducting its public hearing. And if you look at, and quite frankly, the amendments proposed in the Electoral Act are pro-people amendments, and we commend the Assembly for that. But where they missed it was the fact that all the sections that were related to punishment for electoral offenses, they technically avoided those particular sections. Because it makes no sense that if someone incites the public or someone commits an offense and then there is some fine of 100,000 or either 6 months imprisonment or 1 year imprisonment, that's actually not sufficient enough. So I think that there's a window of opportunity in that for the National Assembly to review the act, though perhaps not between now and the elections. But back to your question about that, there are a lot of factors. First is the fact that we have weak institutions. Now, these institutions, when I say weak institutions, the police, the other law enforcement agents, if our institutions are so weak and moribund, we place so much emphasis on the individuals that head these institutions, and which speaks to the fact that we do not in any way respect the rule of law and the principles of constitutionalism. Where one man who heads a particular government institution thinks he is actually the god, and he determines what happens at the end of the day, not making recourse to extant laws, and he pushes the same statute that even established him aside and dictates what actually happens in aberration of the law, and nobody is actually caught. Or where, for instance, you have people who are arrested, who are taken to the police or are kept in custody, but because they have some godfather somewhere, and all they do, that politician sits somewhere and he makes a call to either the DPO or the Commissioner of Police. And the Commissioner of Police, because of the kind of system that we run that does nothing but encourage impunity, will heed the request of that particular politician or whoever, or that popular person who is making that call. Now, that act in itself is undermining the institution. So we have a long history of killing our own institutions with ourselves.
Yeah, let me come in here. I mean, we all say that self-preservation, the first law among humans. Now, this is an issue that concerns politicians.
Yeah.
And most of the time, they're the ones directly involved. And they are also the ones who have the authority, either executive-wise or legislative-wise, and command so much influence in society. Mm-hmm. So if you push this down the line, you will have to put politicians in prison. Is that why we are finding it difficult to bring some people and prosecute them properly? Let's go back to River State, where we just had violence, last week at a political rally, and a policeman was shot dead. Now, if somebody has been named, is a member of the Rivers State House of Assembly. I mean, the candidate openly accused an honorary member of the House of Assembly of being the one directly responsible for leading people to make that crisis. Before that, you saw the act of violence perpetrated on the floor of the Rivers State House of Assembly by a member of the Rivers State House of Assembly. What has happened to him till date? Absolutely nothing. He's even contesting an election again to get back, into the House of Assembly. Now, these politicians control so much influence and power. Who can call them to order? Who can bring them to book? Who can throw them in jail?
Now,
He said that if somebody was in jail by now from the 2011 disturbances, so a lot of people will be afraid.
My response to that is, the truth is all hope is not lost. Our politicians need to understand something, that they are not in any way above the law. The people who are out there, Nigerians think that these politicians are some small gods. And that is why even when the Constitution provides that you can recall your parliamentarian, and we don't activate the provisions in our Constitution. And there is an elaborate process. Yes, we may think because we come from a history where it is difficult to ask questions, to ask our politicians questions or hold them accountable. For me, one thing is, our institutions are not working for the good of the people because we as a people don't interrogate these institutions. We don't engage the institutions. And how do we engage these institutions? First is to even have sufficient knowledge about what should be based on what our laws clearly say. How many people have instituted legal actions in court? Yes, you might say the judiciary is not independent. Yeah, but the truth is we are in a constitutional democracy where institutions actually are the drivers for governance. Yeah. We have no choice, except if you want to adopt some revolutionary approach where you say we will suspend the law and we will take up arms against the state. That is not advisable. The best thing we have to do is to engage these institutions and make them work for the people. We must understand, and the Constitution already provides, it has empowered the citizens that sovereignty lies in the people. The person who is in a House of Reps or in the Senate today, which is what Nigerians would understand, are there because we actually went to cast our votes for them. That's very, very important.
That's the question.
And
that's that was the question I was going to put to the honorable member. Some have said that why there's so much violence, why people want to intimidate others and go maybe to the National Assembly or become governor and all that is because people don't believe that their votes will count. If you agree with me that that could be a fear, how can we make our votes count? I'm not actually looking at what you're wearing, but I'm just saying, how do we make our votes count, Honorable?
Yeah, it's very, very necessary and important that our votes should count. Our votes should determine the success, what happens in an election. When people vote believing that this will be the result and they get a different result, it also raises this impunity and violence. I think that for us to have a credible and violent-free election, we should have a credible election where people will believe their vote will count. You ask me how we're going to make it count. How we're going to make it count is to reduce electoral fraud, electoral manipulations, and let the INEC be really independent and do their work. Not when we begin to notice one thing or the other and so on. For example, we are told, INEC said they were ready to do elections. In one swing, they told us they were not ready. Some are yet to get their cards, and some areas are concentrated and loaded with cards. Some areas are starved of cards and so on. It gives people, the electorate, a problem, what I may call confidence crisis. And where they do not trust the Independent Electoral Committee, they go out of their way trying to make sure that they have their way. But that is not a better thing. Like my colleague said, we have a democracy that they can challenge some of this in court. And like I said before, once electoral fraud is established, the perpetrator is worse than an armed robber. He should be dealt accordingly. Not when the court or electoral tribunal cancels the election and returns a different verdict. The perpetrator should not go free. They should be thrown in jail. They should be made to suffer because they are trying to take us back. They are winding the hands of the clock behind. So we must do something drastic so that the electors will know that your vote counts, that what was computed was what came out. But those people who manipulate elections and so on, and when they go scot-free,
and manipulate the judiciary as well.
And manipulate the judiciary as well.
I mean,
so it becomes serious. And again, people don't seem not to have faith in judiciary, but of recent, we've been seeing a lot of improvement in our justice system.
Okay, Honorable, we'll take a break. When we return, we'll conclude our conversation.
I am Mamode Akuga. For almost 3 decades, I have been involved in broadcast journalism, with the better part of that time in the gathering and production of news and news programs. I'm proud to have pioneered weekday morning news talk show on Nigerian television, first with AM TV Live on DBN television, and later with Kakaki on AIT.
I am Obiora Ilo. Over 30 years ago, I started my career at Radio Nigeria. Over these long years, I've presented several programs and interviewed hundreds of guests, men and women, the big stars and the not well known, the rich and the poor, politicians, movie stars, journalists, the good, the bad, and the ugly, as they say. You just name them. I've also covered events across the world, from Europe to America, from Asia and back to Africa, bringing first-class reports.
Now, together with Obiora, I will be coming to your screens 2 nights a week, Tuesdays and Fridays, with the O&M Late Show.
Mamode and I will be bringing our decades of experience to bear on our new talk show, the O&M Late Show.
In our careers, we have blazed many trails, and we are thrilled and ready to set new records with nighttime television. The O&M Late Show.
Your late night catch-up.
I hear in Nigeria, nothing is happening, nothing is working, nothing is making sense. When I look in Nigeria, I see the economy is growing. Young people have better opportunities. The farmers are rejoicing. Transportation is getting better and better. The roads are better than they have been in a long, long time. So why are they lying? Why are they covering the truth? Where is the integrity? Where is the patriotism? Maybe that's why they don't want to debate. People, think about the truth. Think Nigeria. Vote Goodluck Jonathan for president. This message is brought to you by Wind of Hope.
It's still the O&M Sunday Show, and today we're talking electoral violence, post, pre, during the general elections. And of course, we've had the 2 gentlemen with us in the studios taking a look at this. Honorable Uzoma and Nkem, a member of the House of Representatives, and we've had with us also Samson Itodo. As Honorable, now for the people, I can imagine that the sentiments you echoed here, that there should be some, proper punishment, and if not for anything at all, just to act as deterrence, to make people see that you could get in jail for doing this kind of thing, and that alone can stop people. I know that a lot of Nigerians would also wish to see that, and there's very little they can do now. Samson is putting on a T-shirt, 1, 2, 3, make your vote count, and that kind of thing. Now, what can the people do to ensure compliance? Because it looks like the executive and legislature are the ones directly involved in this, or electoral violence issue, and so they may not want to push it too much, because if you push it too much, it will stop at the doorstep of honorables like you. So, what should the people do to give some teeth to the sentiments you echoed earlier?
Yeah, my take on that is that electors should be very vigilant. They should cast their vote and also watch. You can't have electoral fraud without the connivance of the electoral officers. They say cast your vote and go away. No, cast your vote and look at the way you can monitor. Now they're saying they're going to use electronic transmission. I don't know. They're talking about hacking and all whatnot. I pray that we also will not have electronic cheating that people will not be able to discover. If you look at the Kitty or whatever election that they had at the time, people had their vote and stayed around and watched until they saw what happened. And all results should be declared there and then. At every unit, after casting the vote, the result of that unit should be made known there and then. But the situation where you take it somewhere to do collecting to another center and the final result announced somewhere.
Well, that's what the Electoral Act says. It's only the resident electoral commissioner
that can announce. But we should know people
at least at your ward, at your booth.
I should know the ward level, my booth level, the ward level, the LG level, and so on. So we begin to compute and
even if you know it's not. It means nothing. It's not legal. It's not
exactly because not announced by the big guy who is designated to announce it. But at least that will give us a leeway to challenge the final figure he announces, and we'll proceed to the tribunal to challenge it. And those involved in doctoring that from the world level should be punished. My worry is that Jega threatened to sack one or two officers somewhere
from the Anambra election.
Yes, but today nobody got sacked, or to my knowledge, I'm not aware anybody got sacked.
Okay, Samson, I mean, I think we just have to come to this, your 1, 2, 3, make your vote count and all that.
Yeah.
What is this campaign about? Because we've had these campaigns at every election, campaigns, international monitors, they're pumping money to make sure that our votes count. And they still don't count as much as we want them to count. So this campaign you and your colleagues are moving forward, what is it about? How does it ensure a compliance with our votes?
I think what's important, and this understanding really needs to sink deep, is the fact that the candidate you actually voted for does not win or is not declared the winner of an election does not mean your vote didn't count. When you say your vote should count, what you simply mean is we want credible elections. We want to ensure that even if my candidate is going to lose, let it be a free, fair, and credible context. And one way to ensure this is a valid and a credible voters register. The building block of any election, anywhere across the world, is a credible voters register. Once the register is faulty, you have undermined the credibility of an election from the beginning. Now, what INEC has told the public is the fact that, yes, we have an authentic and a credible voters register. Now, the permanent voters card, going to collect your permanent voters card, because the Commission has said repeatedly that only those with permanent voters card will actually vote on the day of elections. And we strongly support that position. And because the entire conversation of whether using temporary voters card and jettisoning the idea of the card reader, I think it's not in the best interest of our elections, because that will also undermine the credibility of the election. So using the permanent voters
Samson,
card.
Sorry, let me jump in so you don't lose track of that. The people who are saying let's go back to the temporary voters card are worried about certain things. For instance, it's not everywhere you would have power supply, Wi-Fi signals and all that.
No, but you don't need Wi-Fi signals for the card reader.
Jega himself has said, look, there's possibility of some of these card readers not working. If it doesn't work here in Abuja, Paduma Hills, what we will do is we will wait till the next day and then do the election the next day or take it somewhere where it will function.
Yes.
And after the elections, and we still have a lot of these situations around, have you kind of tried to figure out what confusion it will cause?
This is my respectful view on this matter, that nothing is too much, no time is too small for us in the conduct of an election, that at the end of the day, all the stakeholders will welcome and accept the results, because it's very, very important. Now, in other climes that have used this, by the way, you don't need Wi-Fi for the card reader machines to actually function. And when you talked about batteries, and those are fears that we've also expressed with respect to the card reader itself. And INEC has said that yes, they've purchased more batteries and all that stuff. But if the card reader fails, the guidelines released by INEC, there's actually a provision there that if it fails, particularly they have them more in stock, so they can replace it. It's only when it gets to 1:30 or 1 o'clock and you don't get a replacement
let me just ask
that
a
you
quick
can repeat
question
the
before I
next
go
day.
to John, Honorable, I'm coming to you. Okay. Where are you registered to vote?
I was registered in Jos.
In Jos. You are in Abuja, you live in Abuja.
Yeah.
Honorable, where are you registered to vote?
In my community, Akwete.
So if we all go to Jos, you go to Jos, he goes to Akwete, I go to Delta State, he goes to, and then the card reader fails, and then we have to wait. I probably won't be back here for my show. You probably will be back another 2 or 3 days. Have you thought about all that confusion?
My
worry, we have to go now.
If I may come in there, my worry on that issue is, you see, at times, if a particular unit waits for 2 days, the outcome of the other unit have been determined. So going to vote may be useless to them because they now know what is the outcome otherwise.
The people might just
but
decide
not really,
to
because
ban one on
the
the
results
fact.
have to be announced first.
Election that is scheduled must be simultaneous at the same
Okay,
time.
gentlemen. Okay, gentlemen. I must thank you for coming on our show.
Thanks.
But before you go, we usually have a small present for our guests. Honorable, thank you so much.
Samson?
Thanks.
Yes, just
I was a guest on the one then.
yes, what you go back with when you come to the show.
Thanks.
Thank you
So
so much.
we just take a short break, and when we return, Leo Nwordi is already in the studio, and we'll be talking about Nollywood and evangelism.
Yes.
That's the new one.
Yes, we are on the sofa, and it's still the O&M Sunday Show. Obiora,
We have Leo Nwordi, one of the veterans of Nollywood. He's also a broadcaster of repute, and he's just now a pastor. Leo, you're welcome to.
so many sides.
Wow,
I think we should just say the versatile Leo.
it's a pleasure meeting you guys.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Leo, you almost gave us a heart attack. I was afraid you were caught up in church and you won't be here for the show.
Pardon me for that.
So Leo, I've known you for many years, and I've also known a lot of your colleagues for many years.
Okay.
And everyone in Nollywood is becoming a pastor. Did you guys catch a bug?
I don't think it has to do with the bug. I won't be surprised tomorrow if you become a pastor and he also becomes a pastor.
Is that your plan?
No, it's not about plan. I think it is divine. The kind of gift we have, some people don't have it. It takes someone who has the kind of gift we have to be able to minister to people, to be able to pass messages to people. If you don't have it, then it will be very difficult. Very few people have been able to succeed as pastors who hitherto couldn't relate with human beings.
So there's a strong communication thing in there for you to talk to. So how's it been for you, really, the transition?
It's not been easy from doing, first of all, for so many years in Nollywood, I was doing secular movies, and then I delved into, gospel movies. Then I wasn't even born again, and that was the worst period in my life because that was when I almost died. I lost my car. Some actors almost died in my set. Omotola was almost killed in my set. Maureen Solomon almost died on my set. I was in a hospital. several actors.
Negatives.
Negatives.
Occurred.
Because you don't move from secular movie to gospel movie without being properly prepared. So it wasn't easy at all.
So, but how did you manage that?
Well, maybe I should talk a little bit about the few times I did gospel movies before I came back to broadcasting, and then they were still in Nollywood. The last film I did, then I remember. I may not remember if I remember the title. I'll tell you later. It featured Omotola, Emeka Ike, several others, Maureen Solomon, and so on. We rented a gun to shoot the movie for 4 days. For 3 days, the gun was given to us without bullets. And then the 4th day, it was loaded with a bullet and cocked and given to a guy to give to me. And Emeka was on set just waiting. I had finished rehearsing them. All he was waiting for was the gun to point at Omotola and shoot.
With a live bullet?
Live bullet to point to Omotola and shoot. And then one new guy, you know what new guys are, the greenhorns, he was seeing Emeka Ike for the first time. He ran to me, he said, "Oh, so is this how you people rent guns in Nollywood? Can I just have a feel of it?" He picked the gun and pressed the trigger, and the next thing we heard was bang.
Oh my God.
That would have been it. Before then, Maureen Solomon had a lump on her, her breast. She could no longer come on set. The lead actress, for 4 days, was in the hospital, several people. And then it dawned on me that something was happening. Most of the movies we make, secular movies, don't glorify God. That's just the truth. Secular movies don't glorify God. When you do secular movies, you could spend just a few time on set and you get out of set. But the moment you go into gospel movies, then you begin to know the realities. It begins to dawn on you. It's either you're truly born again, or you've been chosen to do it.
Okay.
Or just stay in a secular, genre. So, and then I asked myself, which one would I prefer to do out of the two? I said, no, I prefer to veer into, gospel movies. I didn't know I was being prepared for what I'm doing right now.
So where did you have the conviction?
Okay, the truth is I was very, very stubborn when I was in Nollywood. Very stubborn. The usual thing, guys used to do, mess around a lot. Money was coming in, I was catching my phone, so I thought it was all fun. Then one day I had a dream. I saw myself ministering miracles, and I told a friend, he said, "You're going to be a pastor." I said, "Me? With all the babes and all the fun?" I said, "Me? No, never. I'm not going to veer into, that area." And then I continued in Nollywood, this movie, and after the movie, I realized that my fortune started dwindling. Virtually everything I laid my hands on, they were just
not
going
working.
down.
Yeah.
Not working.
And then I had another dream. This time around, it was two angels. I saw two angels while I was shooting a movie, and one poured a liquid on my head, a silver-colored liquid. I went cold. And then when I related to some pastors, they said, "Mr. Man, you're supposed to be a pastor." I said, "I beg, I'm not going to do this." Then you won't believe it. I got a contract to shoot a movie from UK. I had only taken little money out of that contract. I sat at home to write the script. Lo and behold, I could no longer walk. Yeah.
Paralyzed?
Paralyzed, yes, I could no longer walk. Maybe you I don't know if you heard about it. It got to the extent that I almost committed suicide because I could no longer walk. I could no longer fend for myself. And I said, "Me, hold you, I can't walk." The day I almost committed suicide was the day I heard from, a little voice. And the voice said, "Call so-and-so person." And I called, a pastor too. And that one said, "Go to the balcony, I'll call you back in 5 minutes." I said, "I can't walk." He said, "Whichever way, just get to the balcony." I got there, he said, "Lay your hands on your head." I did. He called me back like 3 minutes time. He said, "Stand up." I stood up. I started walking.
And that was it?
And that was it. And he said, "It's either you do God's work or you pay dearly for it. The next time you might not live to tell the story."
Okay. A very gripping story.
Very, very good.
You are Nollywood, you're a broadcaster,
Yeah.
and you're now a pastor. How do you
Combine all.
fuse all of them together?
Well, I think it has to do with God's glory. I work with ITV rather, a sister station, ITV, as the general manager. And then immediately I took over in ITV, I was shooting Shackles with NTA. And a lot of people said, "How are you going to cope with this?" I said, "For years I have trained actors. God has used me to make many stars. So if now I cannot come on set and you give me a script without rehearsing, and I can't go on set, then I'm not worth, being called a movie maker. So the years I've spent in Nollywood has kind of helped. It has made it so very easy for me. And the way we also started Nollywood, right now we're working on shooting a movie. Any moment from now we're going to shoot a movie. But it'll be easy for me. Why? Because I could reach out to other colleagues who could help me work on a script. Division of labor, I could just share the duties.
But it wasn't like that at the beginning.
No, it wasn't like that at the beginning.
Do you have any
All right,
regrets? Do you have any regrets?
We have to go
The way
now.
you've gone?
We're out of time.
Not quite.
Regrets, yes. Yes, because
What would that be?
it's painful that Nollywood is no longer what it used to be.
Okay.
That's
We
my
hope,
regret.
we hope you guys in Nollywood will make it what you want it to be. Yeah, we
What
must,
it ought to be.
yeah, we must thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. Too.
And we wish you luck in your pastoral job, in your movie making, and in your broadcasting. But
I won't be surprised to see a few pastoral churches very soon.
We just give you a little.
Thank you,
Thank
Leo.
you so much.
That's
For
a
this for
little
me.
more from us, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vin.
Thank you.
And that's our package. Leo, we won't let you go. That's our package. I'm Obiora Ilo. Don't forget that we'll be here again on Tuesday night at 11 p.m.
And I am Mahmoud Akuga. Well, hopefully they will be able to get representatives from the Catholic Bishops' Conference by Tuesday to tell us what their meetings and what the communique will be like on Wednesday. Until then, do have yourselves a wonderful rest of the day.